Hello everyone, my name is Alex. I'm a 2000 rated over-the-board chess player, and in this series we are climbing to 2300 rapid elo, while I'll be explaining my thought process as best as I can for your education and entertainment. Here we're facing a Caro Kann, which is what I personally play with the black pieces, and I'm going to play... I've been experimenting with the advanced for white, but I feel much more comfortable in the Panov attack. So the Panov attack is where you take on d5, black takes back, and then we push c4. And what this does is it immediately stops black from building this pawn triangle in the center, which is typically what Caro Kann players want to do. It's what I like to do with the Caro Kann. It's what most Caro Kann players want to do. And so by playing the Panov, we're effectively stopping that. And yes, black does get this pawn chain in the center. But normally, he has a c-pawn, which can then go to c5 and try to break open the center. In the Panov attack, black doesn't get to do that. And one of the key things in the Panov is that black has the option of taking on c4. We'll take back, of course. So we're not sacrificing a pawn or anything. But if this trade occurs, we will be left with an isolated queen's pawn. And the pawn is a weakness, but the question is whether we can play around the pawn. Now, in this position, white has a few options. Moves like pawn a3 are completely valid, stopping bishop to b4. Moves like bishop d3 are very valid, just getting ready to castle, applying pressure on this diagonal. I'd say those are the two main moves alongside pushing c5 or taking on d5. Personally, I really like pushing c5, and this is just my preferred way of playing the Panov attack. And the reason is because if we can get a sort of pawn structure where we have pawns on a3 and b4, for example, then we will have a very, very solid 3 versus 2 on the queen side, right? And what that means is that it should be relatively easy for us to get a passed pawn, especially because our c-pawn is already so far up the board. What we need to watch out for is ensuring that black cannot strike back in the center with e5. Because if e5 is possible, and we were to take, and black would be able to take on c5, let's just say that that's an option for black, then we kind of lose our advantage, which is why the next move, bishop b5, should make sense to you. Although the bishop looks very natural on the d3 square, I much prefer it on b5. Attacking this knight, which is controlling e5. And actually, I'm just going to take the knight. I'm literally just going to take the knight and whack my knight on the e5 square immediately. And this might look a little bit strange. Like, Alex, why are you giving away the bishop pair so early on? There's no reason to be giving away the bishop pair. Technically, we didn't have to take. I could have just castled in this position. However, it gives black options like bishop to d7, for example. Whereas this pawn structure, I prefer making black take on c6 with the b pawn, because after we castle now, which I think... Wait, let me think a second. If we castle, is there bishop c5? Yeah, there is. So we have to be careful. This c5 pawn is a massive strength, but we always have to be aware of our d pawn getting overloaded with the c5 and e5 squares. Of course, previously I was concerned about him playing pawn c5 and us taking and him taking on c5. Here we face the same sort of conundrum where if we were to castle, this bishop takes c5, and if we take, our d-pawn is overloaded and we cannot defend our knight. Therefore, we're going to play bishop to f4. Obviously setting up ideas against the queen, and can you spot the threat in this position? Can you spot the threat if, I don't know, black plays something like bishop d7, let's say? The threat is knight to g6, because our bishop is undefended on f4. So if we take on f7, for example, the queen will just take the bishop. And we have nothing, right? So the idea is knight g6, defending the bishop, opening up an attack on the queen, and attacking the rook and the bishop. So, worst case scenario, we win the exchange on f8 in that line. By playing bishop f4, yes, I'm setting up this tactic, but more importantly, I'm just defending my knight. So now black can't play bishop c5, dc5, and queen e5, because the knight is defended. Black also doesn't have time to play bishop a6, stopping us from castling, because of course there's knight g6, with the attack on the queen, and then I'll win the exchange. And I mean, black could try and play that position down the exchange, I guess, but realistically, I think if we have to, we could just play f3, king f2, and then self-castle like this. I mean, it's really not that big a deal, to be honest, because although black would have the bishop pair in that position, it's a very closed center, and as long as he can't play e5, which is a major idea in this for us, then we should be good. So my opponent goes queen to b7. Okay, so he's obviously stepping off of this, also keeping an eye on the c6 pawn, and counter-attacking my b2 pawn, which is quite interesting. So if I castle in this position, I assume he takes on b2. Then I take on c6. If he takes, I take, his king moves, and I have this passed c pawn, which looks rather nice. Alternatively, if I castle and he takes, I don't think knight a4 makes sense. I mean, the queen, I assume, goes probably to b7. And if rook b1, queen a6 keeps an eye on the c6 pawn. So I'm not sure that makes sense. Maybe he wants queen a6, stopping me from castling. This is interesting, actually. So what happens if I play queen e2? Applying more defense to the knight, controlling a6, and defending the b2 pawn. Does that make sense? So if queen e2, what can black play? His bishop, if the bishop goes to d7, I don't care. That's just a very passive bishop. Let's say, well, if rook b8, you're kind of stepping into potential tactics. I could even just play knight d3, hitting the rook and defending b2, forcing the rook back. Then we castle and we're much better. So queen e2, rook b8 isn't a problem. Bishop d7 isn't a problem. I guess the only thing we need to consider is him moving the queen. He still can't play knight h5, chasing my bishop. That's also something I'm watching out for. So queen e2 looks rather nice. d4 is somewhat weak. So if queen b4, counter-attacking... Oh, we just take and the queen is hit and the pawn is defended. So that's no problem. If something like queen a... No, queen a4 can't be played, because my knight defends a4. So I think queen e2. If queen a6, that's the other consideration. I think just take and knight c6. I'm up a pawn, I can't castle, but queens are off the board. So because of all of those reasons, I'm going to choose queen to e2. I think the queen is very well placed on e2. While it doesn't defend my d4 pawn, there's no good way for black to attack my d4 pawn for the time being. He could try some... Yeah, he does go knight d7, as expected. But I'm not sure that's fast enough, because now I castle, I think. If castles bishop f6, rook b1, prepare this. If I get b5 in, the game might just be over because of my c-pawn. I could take, but that makes no sense. Castles, bishop f6, rook b1. Take, queen takes. My knight has to be better than this bishop. Let's castle. Let's castle. So b2 is still defended. Okay, so he does take. Of course, pawn takes makes no sense. I hang the c-pawn. Queen takes makes no sense. I hang the b-pawn. So bishop takes. He could actually go f6 in this position, which is rather interesting, trying to force e5 through, but he still doesn't have enough support, not to mention the weakness of the e6 pawn. And so this is kind of what I was alluding to earlier in the game, where I voluntarily traded my bishop on c6, which is a big decision to give away my bishop for the knight. But because of this pawn structure in the center, it's very hard for black to open up the position. So okay, let's drop the bishop back to g3. I prefer the bishop on g3. One, because it gives me the possibility of f4, clamping down on e5. And that's interesting. Two, because if my bishop is on f4, e5 could come with tempo. Now, my opponent could play e5 anyway in this position, which is probably the critical move. He does play it. Because if I take, he's not going to take back. He's going to take on c5. I do get e6, but I'm not convinced. So I think rook e1 might make more sense, preventing... Well, does it prevent that? Because my knight's under attack? Take, 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 take. Opposite color bishops, I'm not sure I want that. Not sure I want that. That's a rather interesting move. So, okay, if I take and take, I could take on f6. Rook f6. I'm not really sure what the plan is. I can give a check on e8, but he just retreats the rook. And that's it. I've got to be a bit careful here. Take, take. I could go pawn e6. Pawn d4 doesn't really concern me. I just move the knight. His bishop is quite good, though. What else can I play? So rook e1 takes. Do I have knight takes d5 there, actually? That might be the critical move. Because my knight's hanging regardless. So rook e1, ed4, knight d5. If he takes, I take. Take, take. We have opposite color bishops, but I have a passed c-pawn. His bishop still struggles to develop. If I get the pawn to c7, that looks pretty damn good. And my rook is also very strong. The d-pawns are going to be weak. That's interesting. Here, here. I think that has to be the plan. If rook e1 takes, 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 he could take on b2. Could take on b2. I'm not sure leaving queens on the board is good for him, though. I mean, bishop d6. Bishop a6. Making sure his rook's defended. Oh, then I have check, and I pick up the rook, unless he goes rook f7. But then I can take here. Or go rook b1. I have a lot of ideas there. I think rook e1. Now, I'm obviously not mentioning the fact that he doesn't actually have to take. He could push e4. He could do anything else, basically. He could. He does go e4. But see, this keeps the position closed, which... I mean, I guess he's going for this. I guess that's his idea. I could throw in f4. And if he takes en passant, I win his bishop, of course. Trying to look for other tactics because of his bishop. I'm not sure there are any. I mean, take, take, take doesn't do anything. Bishop back. No, that's no good. I mean, f3 is met with f5, and that doesn't really help me. Or does it? f3, f5, bishop e5. Bishop f6. Pawn f4? Maybe. Maybe I just play for my queenside pawns there. I do have options. I'm just concerned this bishop might be locked out of the game if I go f4. I mean, can't really do a lot else. f4. I think f3 makes more sense. f3, if bishop here, take, take, and take. Yeah, that's fine. Let's go f3. Let's go f3. So I think that forces pawn f5, yeah. Taking, I don't think makes any sense. Also, we don't have to take because he still can't take us because his bishop hangs. So I could just do something calm like rook b1, preparing this. And if rook b1, pawn a5, I can try and bring my knight into b6. I can always go f4 if I want to, or move my bishop if I want to. If this capture happens, I don't really care. Maybe rook b1 is the easiest thing to do. Just preparing b4, b5, a4 type ideas. I mean, am I overlooking f4? Oh, am I... Oh, wait. Am I just overlooking that? Oh, hold on. Hold on. Hold on. That's not good. Am I going to have to take... I think I've messed up. If bishop back to f2, e3, my bishop's just fully trapped. If I go king h1 and takes, he can take my rook. That's the problem. I'm going to have to sack this. I do get a good amount of compensation, though. I do get a lot of compensation. So I think I have to go for it. Yeah, now I take here. Surely. If I take this, he just plays this. Does he? No, then I still take. I think I should take on d5, though. Opening this up. Bishop f6. Okay. Can I go queen c4? I could get some compensation here. I also have pawn d6. Actually, I have pawn d6. And if takes, I can win the bishop. No, I can't. It comes with check. Damn it. No, it comes with check. Okay, that's not going to fly. I think I have to go queen c4. Looks pretty forced to me. Queen a6, that's a rather annoying move. I mean, takes. And this is quite weak. I know he can take on h2, but I can't really do anything about that. I'm just going to have to take back. I can't really use that as an umbrella pawn, I don't think, because rook f2 is going to be problematic. Completely misplayed. I'm not sure what I did wrong, to be fair. Maybe I was too quick with taking the knight. Maybe I should have castled first. Bishop f4 looks good. Maybe I should just castle? And if this... Maybe I do go for this knight c6 line. And if take. That was probably the way to go. Queen e2 might be too slow. I mean, taking just looked no good. Really didn't like that. Okay, he takes on d5. That's surprising, because I thought I had knight takes here. There's no bishop e6. I mean, I have to play this, so let's just play it. So now, of course, the threat is to take the bishop with double check. If he takes on h2, I take back. I have 2 pawns for the piece currently, and I do have 2 connected passed pawns here. Queen f7. Okay. Okay, so I could take the bishop, and he can't take with the queen because the queen is pinned, so he would have to take with the pawn. And then the game goes on. What else can I do? He's preparing bishop e6. Although, no, actually, because I'll take and win the bishop. So I could set a trap by taking. I'm trying to consider rook e7. I don't think it works, though. Bishop takes, knight takes, and he moves the king. So that doesn't work. Rook f1? I don't think does anything. I think taking... Because he can't go bishop e6. Can't play that. So I do have 3 pawns for the piece currently. For now. We'll see what he does. It is a bit annoying that he has the bishop pair. He could try and preserve it with bishop to either d8 or g5. I guess g5. Okay, you know, he goes bishop b7. I could just go c6 here. And he might blunder with a move like rook c8, because then I play take, take, and take. So the pin is irrelevant. I could take immediately. Pawn takes. No, I think we should throw this in. I think we throw this in. The bishop has to go back. I mean, if he goes here, I take and then I take. And then... Wait. Can he do that? No, he can't. No, he can't, sorry. I was thinking maybe this bishop takes ideas, but the bishop's off the board. So the bishop has to go back. Okay. That's not bad. That's not... I mean... I even have ideas of bishop c8, knight f6. Again, pawn f6 has to be played because the queen is pinned to the king. Yeah, so take, take. Take. If rook takes, rook e8, rook f8, rook e1. That looks rather nice. I guess he moves the bishop, though. Okay. What else can we do? What else can we do? Does this work anymore? Here. Bishop takes. Knight takes. King moves. Takes, takes. No. I don't have a back rank there. It almost works, though. Almost works. Here, here. Sorry, no, that doesn't work. No, it is rook here. Rook here, bishop here. No, that's no good. Check here. No. Okay. I could play a move like this. It just doesn't look right. Take, take. I don't have to trade the queens. Actually, I could just go like queen c5. Maybe that's the way to go. Rook b8. b4. I mean, can I try doubling up the rooks? Like, oh no, I'm stepping into trouble though, aren't I? I think I should take this bishop. Could go d5. It's an option. Again, I could take. King takes, I push. It's actually quite interesting. Rook here. Rook here. Bishop g4. I think we have decent compensation for being down a piece there. I mean, my king isn't particularly happy, but neither is his king. So should I just keep the queen on? With like queen c5? Or does that make his defense easier? I don't think it does. I think we have a lot of checking opportunities. Let's keep the queens on the board. If I get this pawn to d6, I think we win. I think we win if the pawn gets to d6. So he's got to try and stop that. So maybe like... Well, no, we have a threat of rook e7. That's a big threat. That's a big threat. Rook e7 and doubling up on the e-file. I mean, where does his bishop go? He can't go to f5. He can go to e6. Maybe that's the move. Maybe bishop e6 is what he needs to do. Maybe that was the problem with queen c5. If I go here, you can take on a2. I can go... he could just play a rook to e8, or maybe this rook to e8. And then what? Yeah, don't really have any ideas there. a2 could be a problem. But can I really spend time defending it? D5. What if I bait the bishop out and go rook e7? That's interesting, actually. Can this bishop be defended? Queen here? That's interesting. D5 takes, rook e7, queen h5. G4 looks wrong. Do I just have rook d1? Rook d8, c7. Yeah, that looks really good. Let's go d5. Again, if I get this pawn to d6, I should just win. It's been a... I mean, I'm not honestly sure where I messed up in this game. I mean, I'm sure I've messed up somewhere, unless the engine is going to say this was the way to go, which I just don't believe. Because I think the only reason this worked properly is because black played bishop b7, which just can't be a good move. King h8 might have been better. But then maybe it was back rank issues, I don't know. But I think black gave us some extra time by going bishop b7 because it allowed us to play pawn c6 with tempo. But yeah, I mean, you know, obviously I'm not going to be playing perfect chess games, and neither are you who are watching. So, okay, yeah, no, you can't get away with that though. How do you do this? Oh, I don't have rook d1. The queen can... okay. Oh, I completely missed that. Okay, and if rook to d7, then bishop to f7. Right. Yeah, no, I've kind of just messed that up. What about g4? What about g4? Queen g5. Queen's defended on g5. Well, then I go rook d1. The bishop retreats, offering me a queen trade. I honestly could accept it and play like rook d7. Let's try and make this complicated. So you can't take. Even though you're threatening mate, I just win the bishop. You can't do that. Can't do that. So you have to play good queen g5. That's the only safe square. Yeah, but now I can do this. So then you have to move the bishop. You could take here, to be fair. And then... yeah, I mean, I suppose maybe I did have the option of taking on a7, but trading rooks doesn't seem right. I feel like if I can get rooks on the 7th, like doubled my rooks on the 7th, worst case scenario, I draw, probably. With some kind of perpetual. I mean, unless the bishop tries to go to g6 to defend h7 and put the king on h8, but then this pawn is going to be a problem. Or I'm just going to win a7. So, okay, we make sure the queen doesn't defend d1. Now we get rook d1. Surely you have to go back. But then again, I don't have to accept the queen trade. I just feel like I should. Yeah, so he takes. Do I have to accept the queen trade? Take, rook d7. I have a threat of mate. He has rook f7. But then I take here, here. Check. I win. I think I have to take the queen. So now we are threatening checkmate. We're threatening h7. We're threatening a7. Rook f... no, he goes bishop f7. Okay. I could take here. Not sure that's good. What if I go c7? It's not clear. Not clear. c7, rook c8. What about if I take? Take. Nah, that doesn't look right. Well, then maybe it is. c7. And then I push this. What about b4 immediately? I'm not sure about this, but I'm going to go for it. Here, here, here. Take, promote. Yeah, okay, that works. Yeah. So I do have ideas of trying to get this rook off of the 8th rank. In such big time pressure, though. I mean, if I come here, then I'll happily do this. Because I have connected passes on the 6th rank. Bishop here, again, I have checkmate. After here, 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 and here. So, okay. Rook's on the 7th. I mean, I'm down a piece for a pawn, but I have some high-quality pawns here. What about a6? What about a6? That's interesting. a6 is an interesting move. No, that doesn't work. You can't take this, because I take. If you go here, I still take. You have to stay on the 8th rank, so let's say rook here. Maybe that's not a big deal. I can't play taken here because he has this. I'm going to go b5. You can't move your bishop because, again, I deliver checkmate. I guess the king can move up, maybe. Bishop moves over. Okay. I'm not really sure what I can do, but I'm also not sure what black can do. So he can never take. I guess I'll just bring my king up a little bit. He's kind of frozen, unless he puts his bishop here and tries to bring his king up somehow. This a-pawn is keeping him in the game. I don't see a way to eliminate it, though. I don't think I can just come round like this. Bishop here. No, again, that's checkmate. Yeah, so the bishop really can't move. If rook f7, take, and then I win. King h8. Not sure what that does. Just march my king up a little bit. If I could bring my king over the f-file, it would be interesting, but I can't. This rook could be undefended in some lines. Like rook here. Doesn't work. Again, I don't think this has enough merit. I need to keep my rooks threatening checkmate. I might just have to shuffle with my king and go for a draw because I don't know how I push this. I mean, the black king sucks, but... Okay, I'm just going to try and gain a little bit of time. What do I do? Like, rook d6. It doesn't do anything, does it? It doesn't do anything. I mean, to be honest, I should probably just be happy with a draw, considering I'm down a full piece. My c-pawn just isn't good enough. Yeah. I think it's the correct decision to take a draw here. I mean, I'm also down to 30 seconds. I don't know whether maybe this was a mistake, but after something like take and take, I don't see... That doesn't work. That doesn't work. Take if c7. Just rook here or rook here. Even, I mean... Yeah, it just doesn't quite work. I don't know whether I could have exploited this bishop more, but maybe b4 was wrong, but I just had no time on the clock. I mean, taking... I considered this. I considered going into this, and if I get this pawn to b6, the game is over. But I think I was just thinking, well, let's say rook c8, c7, bishop e6, b4, bishop D7? I don't know whether I can win that. I mean, what does the engine think of this position? Thinks dead equal. Yeah. I don't know. Let's jump into the analysis and see what the computer has to say. Okay, this is a pretty wild analysis. Okay, me and my opponent were both at a similar level of accuracy. I was at 80, not 30, 83.8. My opponent 84.5. So the opening was pretty bog standard. This is a very normal panel of attack sort of position. C5 is a line I really like. Bishop b5 is good, and here taking is the best move. So knight e5 is good. I maybe should have castled. Now, why didn't I castle? Why didn't I castle? Why didn't I castle? I don't know. Maybe castling was just easier. Maybe there was no need for knight to e5 as early as I did, but knight e5 is still fine. Queen c7, bishop f4 is the only move, because if I castle now, then as I said, bishop c5, take and take. I mean, that's no good. So bishop f4 comes with a big threat. If you, I don't know, play bishop b7, then again knight g6 is the idea, defending the bishop, attacking the queen, attacking the rook, attacking the bishop. So that's something like here. The engine actually likes taking, because after here I get more trades and I still go up the exchange, and then I castle and I'm winning. So my opponent plays the only move, queen b7, and here I think, yeah, queen e2 was the mistake. Queen e2 was the mistake. So here I either have to go knight d3, which I only spotted after I'd played queen e2, defending b2 and keeping an eye on e5. Also opening up my bishop, I suppose. So if knight d3, something like knight d7, preparing e5, castles, if f6 now, rook e1, e5, b4. Oh, I have b4? Whoa. Of course, if you take here, then I take here, and if you take here, I have mate in 6, apparently, after queen g4. Okay. That's interesting. The more reasonable approach I think I should have played was castles, and if queen here, just knight c6. I mean, how I came to the conclusion that this was okay for black, I don't know. I mean, this is clearly winning for us. I think maybe, like, I don't know, I was concerned about knight to b4 for some reason, but here, how am I not winning? Like, if knight e4 happens, just f3. This bishop kind of sucks. So queen e2 is the wrong way to go. And of course, if I castle and he doesn't take on b2, let's say he goes knight d7 like in the game, yeah, I just need to retreat. And after f6, rook e1, e5, again, the idea is b4. Yeah. And if he goes rook f7 defending the bishop, now I take, and after f takes, I'm just going up a pawn, and c5 is protected. I'm not going to lie, I've never encountered this idea of knight d3, preparing b4 and keeping control of e5 and c5. I've never seen that before, but I will keep it in mind from now on. So yeah, again, I should have played knight back. Castles is okay, but it's not the best. I should be bringing the knight back. e5 will happen, and I'm too slow to play b4 because I wasted time with queen e2, but okay. Castles, knight e5, bishop e5, f6, bishop g3. I'm playing... This is a fair enough approach from both of us. Here the engine prefers me taking, and after takes, and takes... Oh, okay. The reason it likes this is because white has a really nice equalizing move here. And the idea is knight to e4. Forking these two pieces. And if this is taken, I have queen c4, winning the bishop back. And I have decent compensation there. Opposite color bishops will be a draw, most likely. And I mean, if you move the rook, I'll take the bishop. So the only other move is rook e6, pinning the knight. But then I take, and take. And opposite color bishops, equal material. Should be a draw. So rook f1 is okay, though. Pawn e4. f3 is not the best. Here, the engine prefers queen t2. And if f5 anyway. Bishop f4. If g5... Oh, right. We're stopping g5 by playing queen d2. That makes sense. So here, I could even just go b4. And if takes, I have takes. take, and this is better for me with the open e-file. Right, so f3 falters to f5, and here rook ab1 is just a horrible move. I have to go bishop e5, my original plan. Now with rook ab1, I was thinking, okay, if black does something like bishop d7, I mean, I have b4 and b5, and I don't know, that's quite interesting, but no, I just completely missed f4, and here, fe4 is the only option. If I retreat my bishop, e3, and my bishop is trapped, I don't have time for king h1 take and take, because if queen takes and rook takes, maybe that's playable, although bishop a6, I'm still losing the exchange on f1. But he can just take here, and then trade, and then, I mean, obviously I'm lost. So fe4 is the only option. fg3, ed5. Bishop f6 is the best move. Okay, that makes sense. I thought maybe taking. The engine doesn't really like that, actually. If he goes to the same line, take, queen c4. Okay. So he goes bishop f6. I go queen c4. Engine prefers rook b to d1, which in hindsight kind of makes sense. But okay, queen c4. Again, I thought he was going to take, which he didn't. He went cd5, which is almost equalizes for me. That's nuts. It felt like an incorrect move during the game, but the engine wants queen a6, which I was quite concerned about, actually, trying to force a queen trade. I was really concerned about that. So if my queen stops defending d4, he takes with check. So if I play takes, he throws in check here and then takes. And I have no counterplay. I mean, if I take here, these pawns are not impressive. So cd5, knight d5, and I'm actually back in the game. Now if you offer me a trade, I take here with double check, meaning I just win, because the king has to move. And then after take, knight moves to like d7, these pawns are going to be unstoppable. So queen f7 is a good move. Here, this is a blunder, but only if he finds king h8, which he failed to play. I apparently have to take on f6 immediately, and after this, now d5. Which makes a lot of sense, to be honest. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, yeah. So hg3, he needs to go king h8, because now I can't take because my queen hangs. My opponent doesn't see it. He goes bishop b7, and I'm actually better after c6. And there, taking is good. But yeah, d5. I needed to go d5. I don't know why I didn't play this. I don't know why I didn't play d5. I mean, it's clearly the better move. Where does this bishop go? Like, if bishop goes to f5, rook bd1, I'm pushing. I mean, I also have queen to f4 with tempo if I need it. Queen c5 is a silly move. My opponent finds the only move, and here d5 is inaccurate, but I mean, the other option is c7, and if takes, I have to go rook e7, queen d5 offering me a trade, and then rook c1, queen c5, rook c5. To me, this is a little bit unclear. Whereas what I went for in the game, although it wasn't the best line, I thought it made a bit of sense. Engine doesn't like g4. Oh no, it's changed its mind. It says it's an inaccuracy, but it's not. It's not. Everything is a draw, basically. Because the problem for black is that he's going to be forced to trade queens. Actually, trading queens, the engine again calls a mistake, but it's not a mistake. It says it's a mistake. It says it's -1 on the game review, but then it changes its mind to equal. Because here I have to go c7. This is a mistake? Yeah, because of rook f7, which I thought he was going to play. Bishop f7 is a bad move. Why is c7 better? So if rook f7, I take and then I play rook d8. Okay, that makes sense. And if you block, I do this anyway. And now you can't go rook f7, right? Because take, and then I win. Okay, so this allows rook to f7, but he didn't play it. b4 is the only move. Wait, what? Wait, how is c7 not also a draw? No, it is a draw. Okay. b4 is slightly better according to the engine, though. So rook a to b8, best move. c7, trying to get him to fall for this trap of rook b4. Then I have here, and if you take back, then I just promote and I win. So my opponent goes rook b to c8. I just don't have anything here. I push b5, you know, maybe he messes up and plays like a6 or something, and then I win the game, but no. I mean, my opponent's a good player. Bishop to g6 stopping this. I shuffle my king a bit. Here, I can't make any more progress with my king, so I give a check to gain some time, come back. The thing is, though, like, black can't really do a lot. He really can't do much. I mean, what does black play in this position? If you go rook f7, you lose. Because, again, take, and then I win the rook. Well, I just promote. So you can't move the rook here. If you move the rook to e8, rook e8, bishop e8, rook d8, rook c7, rook e8, king f7, something, no, not rook e6. Maybe something like rook to e5, and, I mean, this is just a draw, really. These pawns come off the board, and I can even lose my g-pawn, and it's still going to be a draw. So, there's not a whole lot you can do. You can't move the a-pawn. Moving the h-pawn actually just loses because of this. So you can't even do that. And if you move the bishop, you have to stay guarding h7, because otherwise I will checkmate black. Like, if you come back to e8, then here, and checkmate. That was the looming threat the whole time. I actually thought he might try bringing his king up to g7, which is a viable move, but it doesn't really do anything. I think I wanted something like rook d6 here, just stopping king f6. And I mean, black has no progress to be made. If he moves his rook, take. If rook takes, I win, I think, after rook d8. And if bishop takes, then again, rook d8, and you have to trade into this endgame, which is just a draw. I mean, rook here, I give a check. King moves, take, dead draw. So, yeah, I managed to pull a draw out of the bag. I couldn't find any way through. There is no way through, and pushing for a win isn't going to do anything here. If anything, I'm just going to lose if I try too hard. So, considering I'm down a piece, I've just got to make do with it. I think I couldn't decide whether I should have taken on a7 at any point. Like, here, I was like, maybe rook a7, but yeah, the engine agrees. This is losing for me after rook c8, c7. Bishop e8 is the best, but I mean, I can't make any progress. If my rook was on b7, it wouldn't even matter, because there's bishop e6 defending the rook. So yeah, that's just completely lost. So mistakes from both sides. Complicated game, interesting game. Hope you guys enjoyed.